restorative and mobility class. Time to stretch our body. If we have any requests, please let me know. I know on Monday we didn't do much on the floor, so I'll make sure probably when the time hits 10:30, we'll start moving down to the floor just so we're just able to do a little bit more stretches for sometimes our hip and our back on the floor. So we'll kind of cater to that. Okay. So let's go ahead and just start gently by looking left to right. I think we may have one or two new students, so I don't know. I don't think anyone's new in here right now. Maria, maybe you just enrolled. But if not, then maybe some folks that are watching the recording. So again, just left to right. And again, we don't want to do any movements that cause pain. If there's irritates something or feels funny or you just don't like the movement, just skip it and maybe we could find an alternative for it. Up and down. And just be aware when we're doing all of these sitting downs, I know I don't mention it, but I'm expecting that you have nice torso posture, meaning that you shouldn't be doing these neck stretches like this. You should be upright and then just going here, okay? You also shouldn't be back here and just doing this. Okay, so just make sure, nice form, up and down. So big range of motion, all the way down, all the way up. Alright, now we're going to do neck circles. So again, just gentle neck circles here. Let's go ahead and switch. Let's rotate. All right, so let's go ahead and sit on our left hand. Bring your right hand over. Again, just allow the weight of your arm to stretch that left side. You know, sometimes we do like the same routine with stretches or do the same stretches a lot, but you know, when you think about it, we're only doing these really twice a week. So we're not, I don't know if you folks are sitting down the rest of the week and doing these. I know I'm not. I might be doing these when my neck hurts or when something feels. Now, to be honest, I'm not gonna lie. I only stretch the area that the muscle group area or the hip joint area when things don't feel great in that area, if that makes sense. So and that's being reactive. You're only stretching when things hurt or don't feel right, which isn't the best practice. If you want to feel good all the time, prevent those things from happening, then you want to be proactive and do them, you know, when they're not hurting. You're like, oh man, it's been a month since my back has hurt. That's great, but don't forget about your back. Make sure you still stretch it, because maybe in 2 weeks, you know, if you don't do anything more for it, something could irritate it. So just keep that in mind. Both hands behind the head, and then elbows come down. let's go ahead. I know we've done, our tilt to the right, tilt to the left, straight forward. So now we're gonna go about 45 degrees. So if you kind of just slightly turn your head 45 degrees to, if this is north, this is east, then northeast, okay? And then I wanna just bring that elbow down at 45 degrees and the slight tilt down. It's just gonna stretch that back side, that back left side of your head. Relax. Alright, now let's turn left. And again, torso's facing forward. And begin. Very good. All right, we're gonna start moving on to the shoulders. Okay, so let's go ahead, both forearms up, and then just drop forearms down and then up. You should feel that on your shoulders, maybe your upper mid back. And relax. Okay. All right, we're gonna do some W's. Okay, so W's just means that we have our elbows to our side. If we're here, we're like an I, and then if we go here, we're kind of like a W shape. So we're here, and then flare the elbows out, and then back. Hey Jan, Ella, Teresa, Miss Newer. Again, so elbows in, elbows out. So yeah, so as I mentioned before, I'm also teaching at Irvine Valley. So if you have some conflicts with time, I teach this afternoon at 2 p.m. I believe it's a strength and conditioning class, or strength and balance. I know it's a strength something, but in case you want to get a little bit more of a workout. But to be honest, I would say, I wouldn't necessarily. I know Jan and Carmen, you're enrolled in a couple of those. We just had our lifting class, then our stretching class right now. I wouldn't go and do another lifting class later. I would just pick either the first one or the last one that we have. So just things to consider. Let's go ahead and turn right. So grab your left hand, grab the base of the chair. Right hand grabs the backrest, and then rotate. Yeah, like the only thing that makes sense to me, if you do like a double workout day, like if you're like, oh, like I have so much energy, I want to do 2 workouts today, then what I would say is maybe do a cardio workout in the morning and then maybe a lifting workout in the afternoon, or vice versa. Let's switch. Or maybe in the morning you do a leg workout and in the afternoon you do an upper body workout. But makes no sense really. If our goals are to like slightly develop some strength or mobility, we don't really need to hit the weights in the same muscle group on the same day, twice a day. Just again, rotate. All right, let's go left ankle on our right leg. ankle and right leg. I know we just started with fall term, but is anyone traveling soon? Jan, are we climbing Mount Everest? Slight push down.
Hawaii soon. I might be able to join some days. It'll just be super early.
Yeah, I know, Josefina, you did it a few months ago, right? And I think she was up at like 5 in the morning and doing these. Yep. Because it's what, 3 hours? Yeah. So. When's that? Next month? Yeah. I have from Irvine, I have a few people going, I think, to Asia like this week. So some of them are already telling me, Professor, please don't drop me. I'll watch the recordings. I'll be traveling for 2 or 3 weeks. I'm like, yes, go have fun. Go travel. So right leg, right ankle on that left knee. Yeah, my next trip is to Fresno next weekend. Slight push down. We have a cross-country race there next Saturday. So we'll leave Friday morning, come back Saturday afternoon. Short little trip. We'll probably be 105 out there. Let's bring that knee up. So again, you should feel that stretch here. So again, this is a piriformis muscle. If you have sciatic nerve issues, and I think a couple people mentioned sciatica, back pain, this is a stretch that could, I'm not going to say it's going to treat everything, but it could, alleviate some pain. Sometimes when I make the thumbnails for the YouTube videos, I put a little phrase and it spits something out. And yesterday I put it was for the mobility and flexibility class. And all I asked was, hey, can you put this man on a thumbnail as a cartoon? And can you just title it mobility and flexibility, like stretch your neck, your shoulder, and I think back. So, but it was even shorter than that. Anyways, knees forward, step your right knee to the side, and then let's add some tension there so our torso's upright and then our leg isn't collapsing. So add a little bit of tension. So yeah, so the thumbnail spits out, an image, and it says, in like big words, it says, relieve all your body aches in a few minutes, and you're gonna feel better in 5 minutes or something like that. It was some caption that I did not ask for, and I'm like, okay, like I know some stretches could help, but I don't want to, tell folks, hey, this stretch is gonna cure it all or make you feel 100% better. I wish stuff worked that way, but stuff takes time. So you could find some stretches that could make you feel better, but don't expect like some magic exercise or some magic formula that's gonna just make things go away. Switch. I know I haven't asked this question in a while, but is anyone taking any supplements right now that you feel that are helping you a lot, or maybe you started a new supplement recently? Maybe some fish oils or Alaskan krill oil, or there's different types of things. Recline back. Let's bring that leg up and extend that lower leg. multivitamins. Multivitamins are, they're good, but for the amount of stuff that they have of everything, it's very minimal. So that's the only thing about multivitamins that, I'm a little indifferent about. It's just a lot of folks are misled and think, hey, I'm taking multivitamins, so I should be good with all the nutrients and micronutrients that I'm taking. But, it's just not enough. So just keep that in mind. Oh, Jan, what you got? Tamiflex, fast acting GNC brand. What's Tamiflex? What is it? What does it do? It looks green, so I'm guessing it's like a veggie or a grass. Sorry, Jan, you're muted. I don't know if you're trying to talk.
Sorry, it's got tamarind and turmeric, and then a proprietary other thing.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, I know tamarind probably has some antioxidants and some micronutrients, and turmeric is I think a natural. It's not an inflammatory. What is it? Why am I know I would just take. Let's do the other leg. I would put turmeric.
Anti-inflammatory.
Yeah, anti-inflammatory. I was like, what's the opposite of inflammatory? Anti-inflammatory. So anti-inflammatory. But it's not as it doesn't beat up your kidneys or your liver as much as ibuprofen. I remember in college I had some teammates that nothing was hurting them, but they're just like, oh, I'm just being proactive, so I take 2 ibuprofens before every run. I'm just like, oh man, you're just thinning your blood out, and now long-term effects could be a little scary. All right, let's go ahead and do a little bit of balance work. I know we don't have balance as one of the components to any of our classes this term, but I think it's wise that we practice some. So let's do our chair squats. So we're sitting on the edge of the chair. Don't use the support of your hands and just stand up. So stab your heels into the ground, come back. If this is your first time and you feel a little bit uneasy about doing these, then you could use your hands. But eventually this movement is kind of one of those that we want to master in case, we don't have anyone to assist us. We don't have rails or, just armrests to assist us up. So we'll do about 8 to 10 of these. What have you noticed, Jen? Have you noticed any difference with that supplement?
I'm feeling a little more flexible. I took it before, and then I stopped, and then I started again.
Yeah.
So.
Okay. Anyone else have anything? So I think that's good for now. We're gonna do our single leg. Okay. One that I was doing for a while, and I keep going back and forth, just like you were saying. But recently I've been hearing more stuff. It's on creatine. So I would just hear it mainly like on the bodybuilding side, but now I'm hearing it more for like just muscle endurance or promoting strength. And then also there's been some studies that have cognitive benefits too. So I think I might start with the creatine again. So let's go ahead and extend that right leg, okay? And now we're coming up. So now we're using, mainly the strength of just our left leg. If our right leg is extended, I could do this with my right leg extended. I can't do this with my left leg extended right now because, to be honest, I don't trust my calf right now. I officially canceled my registration for the Mammoth race, unfortunately. So I postponed it till next year. So I'll be doing it next September, hopefully. So now we're gonna switch. Okay, so now left leg is extended. So again, you could extend it. One of the easiest ways is just putting your left heel at the same position as your right toes, or you could go a little bit further, but that's where I'm gonna go. So yeah, so now I'll probably, my next competition probably won't be until maybe October, or I'm thinking even November or December probably. Alright, very good. Alright, we're gonna continue with our lower body. Okay, so I'm just gonna elevate my femur, so holding my thigh up, and I just want to swing my ankle to the right and back. So not much of a movement going on here, but I do want to activate my knee joint a little bit, and also activating your hip joint as well. I'm going to switch. And then this next one, we're just gonna claw at the floor. So just feet are flat, and then just scratch the floor by pulling your toes, scratching the floor and pulling your toes towards your heel, okay? So we just wanna claw at the floor here. We'll do a little bit of mobility standing up with the use of our chair, and then we'll transition to the floor, okay? So we'll finish off on the floor. So if we have any back pain, I know sometimes transitioning to the floor could be a challenge, so you could feel free to continue stretching on the chair if you like. Okay. All right, very good. All right, let's get on our feet. We'll do a few movements standing up. So we still need our chair nearby. Okay, so don't put that chair away. Oof. Starting to sweat a little bit. It's getting a little bit warm. Okay, so for this next one, we're gonna use the chair. We're gonna do leg swings, okay? So we're here facing the chair, and then we're just gonna swing our legs across. Okay, so just both my toes are facing the chair, and I'm just swinging that leg across. Right, about 10 to 12, then switch. And I know this chair is a little bit lower for me. If you have a taller stool, or maybe even using a wall, it's going to be a little bit better, because now you're practicing doing that leg swing with your hips being more upright. Okay, so just keep that in mind. If you have another option to be more upright, I would take that over this lower position. Okay, now we're upright, we're standing here straight, left hand is holding the chair, and just back and forth. So this is, as we're kicking forward, your hamstrings, your glutes are stretching, and as you're coming back, that quad is getting a little bit of a stretch there. So I need to organize some of my stuff, but this garage is so hot that I just want to get out of here. Leg swing with the left leg. I brought a lot of my stuff from Mammoth that I haven't unpacked. I have all my shoes in a pile here, and oof. This garage is only comfortable between like 1 a.m. and like 5 a.m. It's back and forth. All right, very good. All right, the next movement is just going to be a little hip mobility, and then we'll start transitioning to the floor. So using the backrest or the seat, obviously the seat's going to be a little bit lower, backrest is going to be higher. We're just going to do some leg swings over and then in reverse, okay? So pretty much this is what we're doing, keeping that leg over and reverse. Remember, if that backrest is a little too elevated, then let's switch. We'll do about 6 of each. 3, 4, 5, and 6. All right, we're gonna switch. One, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. Alrighty, very good. All right, let's find our yoga mats and start transitioning down to the floor, okay? So again, if you have any issues with the floor, you could continue with some of the stretches that we've already done on the chair, okay? So give you folks about a minute to get situated. All right. Need a little bit of water if you have some water nearby. All right, let's go ahead and transition to the floor. So we're gonna be here belly down, resting on our elbows. Okay, so resting on your elbows, head straight. Feet are flat. Alright, now we're going to place our hands where our elbows were. And push up. Cobra stretch here. Hips are making contact with the floor. Torso's nice and upright. Now glutes to your heels. So in one motion, keep your hands where they are. Glutes to your heels. Reset. Okay, from here we're gonna slide our left hand under this space under our right arm and our right rib. So left arm kind of slides under, and that left shoulder should collapse downward. So you're resting on your left shoulder and on your head. Okay, so you're in this weird angle down position. Hips are up. Over here, turned. Alright, reset. Back to the quadruped position. Now your right hand goes under that space, opposite space. Reset. We're gonna go in a lunge position here, okay? So I know we're kneeling, so what we're gonna do is just bring your right leg in front of you. Try to keep that heel slightly in front of your knee, not way ahead, but just slightly. Okay, so that's, we wanna go ahead and pump forward and pump back and kinda just take your hips behind you. Forward. Back. Six. Alright, we're gonna switch. And it's a little bit of mobility on the knee, on the hip, on the back, and depending on how you have your foot position, if you're resting on your toes, you're getting some stretch on your arches, but if you have your foot flat resting on the top part of your toes, then the top part of your forefoot or lower leg is getting a stretch. So we're here, again, pump forward. You might hear a pop. I just heard a pop on my bones between my ankle and my toes. Back and forth, so again, just here, pump. Have a few more stretches to go before we go on our way. Very good. Alright, let's go ahead and get in a sit-up position. Okay. So, sit-up position, we are on our back, knees are bent. We're here, like if we're gonna do the sit-up.
Ay, no, ahí sí no puedo.
Okay, so esta si no puede, Maria, right? Okay, so let me demonstrate and I'll give you another option. So for you folks, if we could get in a sit-up position, again, if we're just laying down here,
Okay.
elbows, I mean, you pretty much just bring your legs bent, and what we would do is just kind of drop the knees to the right,
Okay, good.
and then the knees to the left. Okay, so again, we're just collapsing the knees side to side. Our back is remaining flat on the floor. So the only movement that's going on is really on your hip joints and those lower vertebrae on your lower back. Okay? Now, if you're a little bit more advanced, so again, you could continue with these. If you're a little bit more advanced, you get in a crunch position, so heels are elevated, and then now there's a little bit more room for rotation of the hips. Okay, so this one, you'll feel it a little bit more in your glutes too. But again, I don't want any pain, so if the first one was good for you, then just stick with that. We'll do that for a few weeks, and then maybe we'll try one of these.
Okay, thank you.
Yep. And then rest. Alright, we did this one earlier on the chair, but now we're going to do it on the floor. You're able to get a little bit more range of motion on the floor. Okay, so bring your knee up, grab under your knee, pull it a little bit more, and then extend that lower leg and down. So heel down, heel up. And then reset, switch, again grab under your knee, pull towards your chest, extend, and drop that heel. Okay. So next, some of you, if you've taken yoga before or worked with your back, you might. So we're gonna remain on this sit-up position. You might heard of like pelvic tilt, which is kind of when we rotate our hips, and as you're rotating your hips, you'll feel that your belly button kind of sinks down to the floor. Okay, so we're just gonna work on that. So pretty much, if you're here in this position, what I want you is to kind of bring your belly button down to the mat. And then you'll know if you're doing it right. If right now, if you're just sitting here, you might feel a little bit of a space or some room between your lower back and the mat. So we kind of just want to collapse that space. Okay, so if you feel that space or if there's a little bit of room and you're collapsing it, that's what we want to work on right there. So it's one of those movements that you got to be really engaged. You might feel like you're not doing it right, but as long as you feel that little groove or that space collapsing, we're in the right direction. Okay? And the thing is, when we walk or run, we almost want to run with our hips how they are when we collapse that space. And what that's going to do, it's going to activate your glute muscles as you're walking or running. And the glutes are a big muscle, so that's going to take a lot of pressure off your lower legs. So for me, that I always deal with tight calves, this is always one of those things that gets preached to me. Make sure you activate your glutes when you're running. And I never think about it, but this is the motion or the position that your hips should be at. That makes sense. And anytime people get hurt, I remember we were always at the physical therapy office, pelvic tilt. You'll always hear that when it's movements that are incorporating your back and activating it. You'll hear that. So, all right, folks, let's come back up. Spend a lot of time together today. So as mentioned on the last class, I will post 2 videos for you to complete between now and our next meeting, which is Monday. Again, do them as you like. Don't feel obligated to do them. I know your only commitment to the classes when we meet. I know we also have modules. That information is there for you. You could always go through that. If people want to review that stuff, you could always spend some time reviewing that during class. But that it's a lot of information and you have access to that. But outside of that, I'll try to post a couple videos so you don't feel like, well, I don't feel like I do anything between Thursday and Monday's class. So you'll have some stuff, but like I said, switch it up sometimes. Go for a walk, go for a little hike, whatever it is. But yeah, go. If you have gym membership and you have a Stairmaster, do the Stairmaster too. So, any questions before we head out?
No question, Julio, gracias. Y Julián, ¿cómo está Julián?
Ahora está, and he's on his last day of pre-K, I believe. I think he starts TK tomorrow, and then and then it's kindergarten, and but he's a cute kid. There's times that I want to bathe him so I could put him to bed, and he goes and hides behind his mommy, and and then I can't get to him, and I'm very impatient. I'm like, all right, like I tried, you're hiding, I'm tired. I was like, okay. So, but and I go to bed a little bit bummed because we just don't see eye to eye at the end of the day. But then after he'll get bathed, and then he'll come and he'll give me a good night kiss and hugs me, and it's very cute. So lovely kid.
Cool.
All right, guys, ladies,
Okay,
take care.
thank you.
Of course, bye
Have a good
everyone.
day.
Bye.
Get better.
Thank you. I'll try.